All right, welcome everybody. So if anybody's been following us online, we've been doing the 12-person draft of my 2025 fan-made MLB Showdown set. I got Peter on the line here. Hey Peter.
Great to see you again, Colby.
Yep. So we were just chatting. So he and I go way back to the old days of making custom sets and post them online and mailing paper.
Before even Matt got involved with your art. So even before the 2013, 14, 15, those gorgeous sets, like back in the Stone Ages of, we're just happy to see any cards we can play with again.
Oh yeah, just things that look like they were made in MS Paint. So, and then Gula comes along. We were just talking about how, Gula comes along and makes the Showdown bot, and it takes it from about 1,000-hour project to about 80 to 120, depending on how particular you are with images and the advancements in Photoshop.
It's incredible. It's made all of our lives so much easier. The fact that now, you can do like with this set here and just have all your pitchers in one style, all your hitters in another. You can do whatever you want very easily. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and the sword cuts both ways. I think that's a good way to go into the next point here. So people have been following this for your first time, made a 600 card set, 20 players per team, 12 position players, 4 starters, relievers. The interesting part is the hitters are 2000 style, the pitchers are 2001 style. So, Peter, you want to explain what the kind of the pros and cons of those are, of going with the two different styles?
Well,
not that you made this decision, but if you could put yourself in the shoes of a madman.
Yeah, so I guess in sort of a sword cuts both ways. I think it for team building and a draft like we're doing right now with 12 different managers going through and building teams with 5,000 point salary caps. This is kind of playing on hard mode, right? The 2000 hitters are more expensive than the 2001 style hitters. That's just how the formula cut. So a guy like Cal Riley at 550 points, I'll pull it up right now. If you did him in the 2001 style, he would be significantly cheaper as I'm waiting for it to load. But it's also a good example of how fast the charting is here. Loading card.
So it gives the 2001 gives discounts for very specific things, like not having a home run seems to really give you get a pretty good discount there, which is not the case with the 2000 style, which gets really tough for like leadoff hitters, right? If you want someone with like speed, like you don't get the discounts that you would get in the 01 style,
especially with like just on base in general is more expensive.
Yeah, I think the two McGuires are almost carbon copies, and they're basically the same. They end up being about the same points. So I don't know how they tinker with it. I have to get Matt on here for that.
But in general, it's more expensive, and then the same is true the flip side. So, this card is going to be cheaper in 2001. It just is what it is. It's going to be 510.
Oh, 510. I was like, geez, 470.
No. 510 for this like same card and format. If you have one where he's on at 6, he's going to be more expensive. That's just a better card. If you have him with the 7 walk, he's out at 510. Versus, if you have a reliever, the guys who are 300 points as a closer in our set are 220?
Oh,
in the original.
You could get as many 1 to 18s for 220 as you wanted. You could get Rivera and Zimmerman, right? Like those guys. If you wanted to splurge at 230, you could get Billy Wagner and just get 4 zeros in critical situations during a series whenever you wanted.
And you may be thinking, what is the crucial difference between a guy being 300 versus 220, or the middle guys being, the difference between 220 and 240 and 160, and about 70 to 80 points per reliever is a huge difference when you only have 5,000 points to spend. If your difference between a good and a great bullpen would add an additional 320 points, right?
Yeah,
it could really add up.
You have to really mean it if you want a good bullpen. You can't just like back into it and get a bunch of 170 John Johnstones, Mike Timlins of the world.
Which is what makes it very, very difficult for this set, and why I think it's been a very fun draft so far. We're only a few rounds in. We're going very slowly, which is nice because everybody's got busy lives. We're all now, aging into our late 30s, early 40s, and as we've been slowly and methodically working through it, it's clear that the brakes are going to be applied for a lot of teams in their building because points go fast. And I think what's really stood out to me, as you can see on the slide, there's only 3 guys who can go 7 innings just without losing in control automatically. And having a control problem within the starting pitching has put a premium on bullpen depth. And unfortunately, I don't know how we're going to be able to afford 5 or 6 good relievers.
I'm going to guess someone may have to put a 500-point player on their bench just to field a legal team.
Yeah.
Some people have drafted a ton. Hopefully everybody can adjust. So what we're talking about here, the point of this exercise was, okay, we're drafting, you come in here with a new set of eyes. You've done this a million times. Everybody, when they make a set or they get a showdown set, they want to supplement it with cards they already have. So we're going to look at bringing on 50 cards, add them. Most of these are going to be the old Wizards of the Coast, 2000, 2001 style cards. We'll do a couple of legends from the bot just to give some examples of where to do that. But we want to find, where does this set lack and what would help, what would make it a more fun set. Okay, some quick rules. One, if you just want to play all-star games and you want to have unlimited options, just play with all your cards, right? I'm not here to tell anyone not to do that. But the point of this was to still have some feelings of limitations. And then if you're doing the draft, it should feel like the 2025 year. And those extra cards should supplement it. We shouldn't be taking over this set by just putting, the all-star, the 2000 all-star team out there.
Which goes to one of the things that I really enjoy about this set that you made, and one of the creation rules you had for your original sets that then we used, me and my friends, when we were making these cards in 2018 and 2019, which is limiting the amounts of on-base 10s that we had in the set from the start and kind of setting a cutoff point. So there was only 25 on-base 10s or better in the set. Yep. And I just encourage everybody to kind of do that as much as you can, because it just adds more variety as you're drafting. Because like Colby was saying, it's one thing you could do all-star whatevers, but it's fun to have depth, fun to have to dig deep to get some fun on-base 8s, maybe even a spicy on-base 7 or 2 when you're making it. And so, I think as you're doing the card creation, you're doing version 1 versus version 2, it's fun to get a on-base 9 with a little better chart and a little variety versus, an on-base 10 if push comes to shove.
Yeah, absolutely. There is an argument for there's, just having absolutes with the on-base percentage, but then what would happen is you'd have years where it's there's, 12 on-base 10s this year because, it's 2013 or whatever. It's just
I was going to say, those original ones, you might have 3. It was tough times in the early 2010s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So yeah, quick rules. We're going to do, a lot of these are going to be some of the original cards. So, never mind that sub 10 elite power. I just made this slide up here. But okay, so let's go through your first 5 position players.
Yeah, and so, we kind of worked in conjunction on this. I saw what Colby was going to put out, and so I made sure to add 25 that hadn't been selected. So I think when you see that I put Pudge into the set, you could probably guess what catcher is coming. But if there's something that I thought this set would benefit from having, more added to it, especially a catcher, it's more power and more speed, which obviously Pudge gives. Besides the elite arm with the +11 arm, pretty affordable, for what he is. He's a very draftable, very rosterable, very easy guy to put in the middle of your order, whether it's 4, 5, or 6. But love the speed, love the extra base pop that he's got. Just a classic card that I think would go in the first couple rounds.
Yeah, so the speed lineup is one of the most common ones whenever we draft. People want speed and defense. They want to manufacture a run. which is probably going to do pretty well in this format because there are going to be so many people who are playing like bad sixes, right? Where you're just getting on base 25% of the time. People who are just scared to death to give up the advantage. And one, Pudge stops that. You're good against those teams, right? He's going to keep everyone on first base. Two, he lets you have speed A at a position you normally wouldn't have it. And he singles at a good number, so he actually drives in runs. So he's scoring runs both ways. But he's an interesting card because he's an 8, right? This is a guy where if he was like a 10, it would actually, one, it'd be a million points, but it would be different. Kevin Young, this is a showdown. This is probably someone that people who've maybe didn't play the game originally weren't super aware of. He wasn't not as big of a name as Pudge.
No, he wasn't. But to anybody who's been a Showdown mainstream person, and I think anyone who is listening to this podcast is probably very familiar with Kevin Young at this point. I think he and Randy Velarde are just two classic Showdown cards that give what Pudge does for the speed building lineups. Speed A, extra base pop, on base 9, both plus defenders. With Kevin Young, the +1 at first base is nice. Velarde +4. Just two guys that you're going to be able to put, leadoff spot, second hitter spot, etc. Especially, Kevin Young for being under 450 points. Velarde also cheap, under 400 points. A lot of singles. And, neither one of them are going to hit 30 home runs in your league. But they're going to be perfect lineup setters, affordable options. And I think guys like that on-base 9 range was a little limited at both positions in this draft. Yep. And so I like the variety and the ability to lean into speed lineups that both gave.
Yep, and this is where the Showdown bot cuts both ways, and that the speed is, I've told Matt this, I would give every single player +1 point of speed, just almost across the board, versus what that algorithm says. And then there are times where it's like, the set really wants a speed A first baseman, right? So I actually custom made Harper to be a 10 speed A just to differentiate the first baseman a little bit, right? There's that glut of first basemen who are all pretty similar. And Harper was like the most easy to justify as being a speed A for his aggressive base running, his history of playing in the outfield versus guys like Freeman and Olsen.
And, it does seem like I'm just all about adding more speed. Because obviously A-Rod, another on-base 8, speed A guy, extremely good defender. He's got a little bit more pop than the others. That 15 to 20 range. And I know this set has a couple guys with big home run pop in it. But shortstop is not a position with home run hitters this year. 2024... Bobby Witt had a lot of pop. Gunnar Henderson had a lot of pop. Both kind of stepped back in the home run department. So I wanted to give the draft, a player who at the shortstop position could give you top-notch home run ability.
Yeah, definitely a card that's not in the set, supplements it in a good way, right? You have Henderson, you have Witt and Turner as +20 speed 9s, and then A-Rod's just a different card than all those guys.
Yeah.
So, and I think when you're looking to add guys, you don't want to just add somebody to the set that that doesn't add anything to the experience or maybe enable a team that's under-supported.
Yeah.
So, great pick with A-Rod here. Tony Fernandez, this was one where I was like, oh, what's so special about Tony here?
Well, and this is one where third base did not have a lot of on base to it. Nope. I think Jose Ramirez is the only on base 10. I might be wrong about that, but when I was looking earlier, I think he's the only on base 10. I know the profile is similar to several of the first basemen.
Yeah, but Cronenworth isn't. He's second base, shortstop, and something, right?
Something like that. Is he a 10?
He's realistically he's a shortstop because it based on his positions he's eligible for. For those who haven't looked at the set, the Jose Ramirez is basically the Chipper Jones from the 2000 set. So Chipper Jones would be a good example of a card not to add here.
Exactly. So I was looking at third base and saying to myself, the only on base 10 I see when I'm looking at it is the Jose Ramirez. Then there's a bunch of guys who are on base 9, homer at 19, double at 17 types. I think Bregman, Andujar, and Garcia are all that way. Muncy's got some pop, but not a lot of extra base altogether, big walk range. And so a guy who's an on-base 10, who has, the ability to single a lot, who I thought would be either a fun, if you're a pinger lineup, put in first or third in your lineup type of thing. I thought he'd be a fun card to add in there and give a little more variety to drafting third base.
Love it. So, all right, we'll go down next group of folks here. Okay, so we got more speed and then Jeff Reboulet. So let's work our way to Jeff.
Yeah, so Shawn Green and, to that note too, I think I'll just, Greg Vaughn. I wanted to add more elite power to the outfield. When I was looking at left field, right field, I did not see a single on-base 9 homer at 17, which has always been a bread and butter for me. Because I think Stanton's an on-base 8, and Schwarber's a 10, so he's a 10 homer, 16 to 20. Trout is an on-base 10, 18 to 20. Maybe if he was a 9, he might be 17. But what I was looking at, and there might be a guy who's like center field. Yeah, so Trent Grisham, you could draft him and play him in the corner outfield. But by and large, there's no actual.
You're already paying the premium.
Exactly. So Shawn Green, add something that's not there. Plus he's just always one of my favorite cards. I don't know what it is about that cutout, but I've always thought Shawn Green on the Blue Jays was one of the best looking cards. Not to mention great speed, double at 14, homer at 17, on base 9, singles in the single digits. Just a fantastic card who I think would get drafted by a lot of people based on the variety and all the good things that he brings to the set.
Yeah, and if you have the Dodgers one, you have to slum it. Just do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same exact card.
Yep. And so Greg Vaughn, another guy, plus defense, plus speed, incredible power. Not a lot of on-base 8. I don't think there's a on-base 8 homer at 16 guy in the corner outfields. I know Carlos
Buxton, but again, it's the same thing as
because he's out there in center field.
Yes.
And I think the same sort of principle was applied to Jose Canseco, where I was like, you know what, I always love to draft on base 8, homer at 16.
Well, now everybody gets a DH. It's not even really like a question on whether or not you have a DH. So to get the discounted bat there, and like he's a B DH too. Like he's and Griffey, you get the 9, 16 to 20, which is like classic 2000s bat.
Exactly. Classic 2000s bat. Another guy that does it all. Another guy that's going to get drafted really high. And like, frankly, all 4 of those cards just look great. That the aesthetic is always key. I love using those cards. They look great in a lineup. They're all big names too, if you grew up in the 90s like we did. So it's just fun to mix them and match them. And, like who's going to say no to like, okay, they've got Scooble out there. I'm sending up Greg Vaughn. I'm sending up Jose Canseco. It's fun. It's a good way to mix and match the eras.
And I think Griffey and Canseco have even if you didn't grow up in the 90s, like they have names that that carry through here. And then if we go back here, like Pudge carries through, A-Rod carries through. So there's some nostalgia there. Not a lot of Jeff Reboulet carrying through, though.
No, but Jeff, another classic OG Showdown card that finds his way onto a roster in every draft involving OO cards I've been a part of. Obviously, super cheap, right? 80 points. The extremely good defense at both second base and third base. Yep. He's the perfect punt player.
Yeah, if you're not punting it, say you get Raleigh, right?
Yep.
And you're not punting a catcher, right? So now it's like, well, you're going to punt somewhere. Reboulet is, and by the way, it is a feature, not a bug, that you get to correct everyone who calls him like Reboulet.
Right.
You get to say technically, and that's worth like half a run a game.
Because if you're looking to punt at second base, there's only 5 guys in this set who are cheaper than Jeff, and they are all on base 6 or worse.
Yep, you got a 7, you got a speed B, you got the maximum-ish. Well, second base you get the max fielding, right? The third base plus 4s and the shortstop 6s are wild.
Yeah. So like the OG set, third base went to 3, so it's as good as you get there. It's still great fielding as you're building your double play. I usually play him at second because of the +5, because his contemporary here is Estrada from the Rockies, who's an on base 6, second base +2, who starts to single at 6. So like I'd rather take my on base 7 who walks at 6. Is he going to do as much damage if he, by some miracle, gets a chart? Absolutely not. But he's not there for that. He's there to help me get double plays. He's there to occasionally get on base. He's going to be in the 9 hole. And he's going to open up my salary cap for better players at the top of the order and in the rotation. And especially in this kind of draft, I think he's key so people can afford more bullpen arms.
Yep. And that is so we are doing a 12-person draft. So there are a lot of choke points. One is every team can only get 2 10s or higher, right? Like there's just, if somebody gets 3, that means someone else is getting 1, right? Like it's just really tight there in the high on base. Another area that's tight is cheap, playable, like guys you wouldn't be embarrassed with the start. There are some guys who are sub 100 points, but a lot of them are just like, can I get a pair of them that add up to under 100 so I only have to spend 20 points on my bench?
Exactly.
Yep, that's what I did last time. I found 2 guys. I was like, I'm just going to play an 18-person, 4,980 point team. And I'm going to have 2 guys who don't see the light of day. So Jeff's one of those. All right, keeping it moving here. We got the new Hall of Famer, Jeff Kent.
And he added more pop to second base because I noticed, I wanted another second baseman who could come in. While his home run is only 18 to 20, you'll notice he starts single plussing at 13, double at 14. He is a guy who you could put in the middle of your order, very affordable at only 340 points. So he's one of those very key, here's a guy you're not breaking the bank for who will be a consistent contributor to your lineup. Yep. And, the fact that he just made the Hall of Fame, just kind of a cherry on top.
Yep, and we'd even talked about, do we just put a version of all 3 of the Hall of Famers in here just to make it, as like a nod? It's something fun to do every year where you can put people who have maybe some sort of historical significance.
And I think if you're just going with the original set, Andrew Jones, obviously more playable than the on-base 7 Beltran in the original version, but that's another reason to plug the bot again. Go on there, pick out, say, the 90, one of the versions of Andrew Jones at center field +4, and suddenly you've got a very draftable, very interesting guy, or an on-base 8 home run at 15 version from, say, the 2005 season. Beltran, you can either go his crazy run with the Astros in 2004, just get an insane card, one of those years from the Mets where he's an on-base 9 homer at 17, or even if you do a different version, on-base 10 homer at 17. Lot of star potential from Beltran. Or an older version from the Cardinals. Get yourself an on-base 8 homer at 16 or 17 guy from his St. Louis days who might not have as much speed to get an interesting outfield option for people in the Jeff Kent point range. So a lot of options there. Can't really go wrong with respecting the history of our most recent Hall of Famers.
Yep. All right, we got Dave Magadan. Don't think he made the Hall of Fame this year. Probably off
not yet.
Point. So I assume he retired before Kent, and I assume he's fallen off. Let me check that.
And I just think he'd be a really fun guy who I think he would go in our first 2 rounds from this 12-man draft because of the on-base 9 value that he gives at only 170 points.
The only reason he wouldn't go is because people are so point happy early. People are just so scared to be left having a bunch of budget and nowhere to spend it. That Magadan could make that more difficult, right? So if you guys we'll share some of the draft info, but basically almost all the 10s are gone. Almost every player over 500 points has been drafted. People are just like mad dashing for anyone who's elite, even if they don't fit a specific team. What Magadan actually does, provides that pinger lineup, is very difficult to build. We couldn't do it in a 6-man league. It's just too tough to get like 9s that are cheap enough. Like they're just not all, like they all start to float up towards 300 points. So yeah, it's absolutely a need.
Because at third base, the cheapest on base 9 is 360 points, Alex Bregman. And at first base, the cheapest on base 9 is DH Marcell Ozuna, or Liam Hicks from the Marlins is 270 points. So he's 100 points less than that. It's an on base 9. It's interesting, the mad dash for points now, because there's too many good guys. There's too many hitters in the 300-point range, and there's too many starters that people aren't going to be able to afford. That I'll just be candid, through I think 4 rounds. I think I actually have spent the least by a good margin. I'm only at 1,500 points, and I have Ohtani.
Two pretty economical relievers, so that is going to skew it. Like, you're going to get the points later.
Like, I know that there's going to be relievers in the 300-point range, because a 5,000 point 200, 20 guys for 5,000 points is 250 points a player. I am not worried about catching up in terms of my points later on. I'm more worried about whether or not I'm going to have bad players rounding out at the end. So I'm trying to get as many affordable guys that fill out the back end of my roster later, because I know I'm going to be able to find guys to spend on, even if they're not the super expensive. If it's like I end up with 4 guys worth 360 points, fine, like each, versus 2 guys who are 450, and then some crappy 100-point players I don't really like.
Yeah, so I don't think that everybody's done a good job. Some people have done a good job of finding a lineup that has an archetype to it, and I think some people are just drafting good players at this point and hoping that a lineup, an archetype will emerge from that.
I'm letting the draft come to me in that respect, because it's one of those, it's especially the first time you're doing these drafts, sometimes you just have to see how the cookie crumbles for you. And so far, I'm going cheap, kind of waiting to see who I spend on later. But it's kind of nice knowing, because it's, the 10s are going. But for instance, in shortstop, there are 13 guys on base 9 or better. So I know I'm going to get an on base 9 shortstop at some point.
Yeah, it's not. There's enough there, and part of this was we're like, hey, what breaks if you do a 12-person? 12 people is kind of the upper limit, where it's like, is there one set, or does it get to the end and everybody just drafts 4 and 5 control starters because it's like, well, I got the points to burn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got Rolen. So guy who's Hall of Fame worthy. We got Rolen coming up, and Larkin, 2 other.
And that's just another, third base was the weakest hitting position, I felt like. So getting another guy who's a power bat. Classic. He's a classic card people build around. I just thought he'd added something new with the position, be a fun guy there. Larkin, there's a lot of guys at shortstop who aren't that fast. Like Trey Turner is, basically a better version of Larkin in this set.
Yep.
But after him, none of the other, and obviously Bobby Witt, same thing. They're both incredible. They're over 400-point guys. Larkin is the cheaper version, and there's no one else who's a +5 shortstop there.
So if you didn't play a ton of the 2000 style, there were plenty of people who were content to just send 710 points for Larkin and Edgardo Alfonso, and
it's a perfect combo.
Yeah, just start from there, right? You're not priced out. You could still go get us 507. So 570 in the original set. That was kind of like the threshold for elite, right? There was a bunch of first basemen who were at that tier, right? So you could go get Bagwell and still have speed or speed and power, and have options. You could pitch, right? You could do all that. So the +5 speed. The only thing I don't like about some of these guys, Rolen and Larkin, is the fielding is a little generous. In this set. I wish same way that I would add a speed to every player, I would just take away 1 fielding from basically everybody across the board.
I kind of enjoy, as someone who drafted what's his name? I drafted the guy from the Yankees, Jose Cabello, who is +4 at shortstop and second base and is 24 speed.
Yeah, he would have been a 3 if I was making him on my
own. He would have 25 speed. So you know what? Either way, I was very happy to get him, and the versatility he'll let my lineup have kind of later on, because I'm gonna just kind of see which third baseman or shortstop his best later on and fill him in. It'll probably be a shortstop just because there aren't as many third basemen, and third base +4 is worth more than shortstop +4. But I think it's been very fun to see some of these I could make a really crazy infield. Because I mean it was fun with the Alfonso, Larkin, and then add say Rolen and Kevin Young and having the +14 infield in the original. I think
the Mets infield.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ventura and Olerud with Ordonez.
Ray Ordonez. Larkin's a much better upgrade over Ray Ordonez.
But, you still have that +14 was incredible. And now I think you could go, I don't know if there's a +6 second baseman, but I know if you did like Witt and one of the +4 third basemen to just have +10 from third base there. And I think you could still have a +5 second baseman. And is there any +2 first baseman?
There are some infield +2 guys.
So technically you could get a +17 infield, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crippling to some. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're trying to double plays. I can't remember. I was American League guys. Was he Geoff Jenkins or Jeff Jenkins?
Jeff. He's Jeff Jenkins. I'm a Wisconsin guy through and through. Jeff is getting out of this set for 2 reasons. One, he was my favorite player as a kid.
Before you had that ankle injury, don't look it up.
He looks just like Brett Favre, too. They could be brothers. That was always very funny in the city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin. But also, Jeff is an awesome card. Kind of an overlooked one. It's an on-base 8, didn't catch his
double, right? Like, it's the...
13 double. No, 12. Is he a 12 or 13 double? It's hard for me to see on this.
It's a 12. So.
12, yeah. He doubles so easily. And I'm a big extra base hit guy as the key thing because home run power is great, but it's really like when do they start doubling? And then also he walks at 4, so he's not going to get out on his chart very often, and he is going to put up great extra base hit numbers for you. I love having him in the middle of a lineup, especially for under 400 points. For a 360 guy. He's made a lot of good, cheap cleanup role for me over the years where, he's not hitting a ton of home runs, but I don't need him to because he's driving in a bunch of guys with that double range.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that brings up another good point of, like, if you have a favorite player, like, just put him in.
Heck yeah.
Like, just enjoy what you're doing here. All right, pitchers here. You picked a lot of the 01 styles. I did more of the 2000. So, all right, give us a rundown here. There's some similarities. I think we can talk about them more as a unit here.
Yes, and so I went 01 style because I thought that's what the pitchers were on it. So I was like,
it was definitely the reliever. All my relievers, I think that's where the bigger difference is the reliever.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. I just like Skubal and Paul here are both control 6, 1 to 16 out, tier 1 guys, and so I wanted the OG. Everybody's favorite example of a tier 1 ace starting pitcher, the Pedro Martinez card. It's the Barry Bonds of pitchers. We love this Pedro card. He was so dominant. And he would be the best starting pitcher in the set.
So I have him above tier 1, right? Like, so I would every set I have make basically like somebody is like the 2000 style Pedro, maybe doesn't have the strikeouts.
Yep.
Or the innings pitch, but like this one here, like the no double 1 to 17 is like somewhat reserved for like the Bob Gibsons of the world, and
for sure. And this is me and my friends have always sort of tiered it by just being control plus outs.
Yep.
So like our tier 1 is anytime it's 22 control plus outs. So like Skeens and Skubal are tier 1 pitchers, but like Pedro's a step above within that tier. With the no doubles and all that stuff. Love, and plus, another IP7 guy. This, as you can see from my suggestions, a lot of IP7 guys added on here.
Oh, absolutely. That is what's needed here for sure.
And I really picked Pedro too, because I know that he'd get drafted because who can say no to him? I mean, Skubal, Skeens have already been drafted in ours in the first few rounds. I'd be fascinated to see how the manager spends 700 points on one guy and then strategically builds around him. I'd be just interested to see how that goes. Hampton, another IP7 guy. I liked him for being under 400 points while at control 5. I think he would be picked very early on, and seeing where he ends up in somebody's rotation would be very interesting to me because he is a frustrating card.
He's your one.
Yeah.
He's probably ideal as a 2, and then as a 3, he's probably a strong 3.
He'd be a great 3. He is he's always been kind of a siren card for me. I get suckered into wanting him for that control and IP for under 400 points, and he's terrible. Every time I use him, he's terrible.
Oh, if you lived through that era, he went from being like the man to falling like the air was extra thin in Colorado when he went there.
Oh, and the pennant run, especially the 0-1 pennant run, there's a lot of, projection that went in. Sometimes they hit. Sometimes you get the 2000 pennant run Carl Everett where it's like, no, he didn't turn into an on base 10 homer at 18. Ramon Martinez was not a superstar starter.
Oh, I think that's because I could only juice the Pedro. They just felt like they had to keep it in the family enough. Yep. Like, believe it or not, this Pedro is probably underrepresented to how good he was that year.
Absolutely, but Mike Hampton,
he led the league in ERA, and he was in the American League.
Yep.
Where people, like, going against National League pitchers in ERA. Like,
but Mike Hampton, they nailed it. He just gives up stuff off his chart constantly. He's extremely frustrating. I think he'd be very fun to add into the set. Zito, very obvious. He's just a dominant IP7. He's the Logan Webb. Just having another one in there would, I think, help with some people's strategies. And Barry Zito's super fun. Moneyball, all that stuff.
Not mentioned in Moneyball, book or movie.
No. But Kip Wells, I just thought is a very interesting one. He's another guy similar to Mike Hampton that I see used a lot when my friends and I use the 0-1 cards. He's a tier below Mike Hampton. He's also a walk at 15 guy, but he's so cheap. And like the control 4 guy with IP5, like he's a guy who'd be a 4th starter who I think is going to be drafted in the middle round simply because as a control 4, he's really affordable.
So the killer for both of them is actually the single 17 because 30% of the time the leadoff hitter gets on. Say they steal, like you're facing a speed lineup. Now you have a 20% chance to give up a single or more with getting the advantage, plus whatever you're losing if you don't get the advantage.
But to put in perspective on this draft, Montero from the Tigers is very similar in that he's a control 4, IP5. He gives off single at 17. His walk is 16 versus the 15. He's 180 points, so he's 20 more points, but he gives up a home run. And that's, the difference is like, obviously I'd rather have one more walk on my chart than all my doubles turn into home runs. Also, and the fact that I get 20 points savings on it makes it a very dependable 4th starter, especially because I think a lot of people, as spending as much as people have in the early parts, there's going to be some very bad 4th starters. And so I think he would be somebody who in the middle rounds, somebody like really scrambles to take because he'll be very useful.
Yeah, and I claimed one of the better. Sidney Ponson, just like a cheaper,
exactly
extended, person that you can pitch a ton with. All right,
and if you want to do Chris Benson instead, go for it.
Yep. All right. So relievers, this is again probably about half the pool here because you're doing the 0-1 style relievers, but
yeah, and we'll run through them. Billy Wagner, super fun. Just wanted to add another control 4 affordable arm to the set because like I was saying earlier, people are going to be spending so much. It's hard to fill out that bullpen. This is a guy who can be your 2nd or 3rd reliever for only 160 points. So great deal there.
He defends himself against those speed teams 2 ways, right? He has the 2 walks and the 1-10 non-advancing out, right? So
exactly.
So probably the most popular archetype. He has 2 different ways to defend himself from, which is awesome.
And then I think Isringhausen is just a very fun closer in that, he's a guy with no doubles, control 6, but boy, giving up walk at 15 is brutal.
You probably feel good with a 2-run lead. You probably don't feel good with a 1-run lead here.
Exactly. So that I just think ends up being some interesting drafting strategy because 230 points, it's not like with the 2000 cards where he's probably 180 point pitcher.
Yep. So we got 3 pretty economical relievers here to round it out.
three extremely economical relievers. You'll see these guys drafted and put on rosters almost every single time in 2001 because they're perfect as your fourth or fifth reliever. As I'm going through, there just aren't a lot of cheap relievers.
And there are a couple that are just unusable, and these guys are all various levels of usable.
Yeah, because
Wetland would probably be the toughest, but these are I wouldn't be ashamed to have if I could take all three of these guys, right, and walk away with 110 points and 3 arms. I think I'd take it.
There's only 10 relievers under 100 points in the set, so there's very little to punt with at all.
Yep.
And I think most of them have already been drafted.
Yep.
So,
and this league has very punitive tired rules.
Yep.
So it has the normal, if you pitch 2 games in a row, you're tired. Also, if in the first game your reliever does pitch tired, so say you throw Isringhausen 2 innings in the first game, he is tired that second game already.
Yep. Which, also, and you can't really control 5.
Yeah,
1 to 14 out. That's brutal.
Yeah, he starts as a 5, so he'd come in the next game as a 5. And then he becomes double tired and has to sit out again. And this is about as punitive. This is hardcore. Like, these folks have all drafted before. So, like, you'll see teams and you'll be like, I think I could do better. Just know that this is about as hard mode as it gets.
Yeah, the salary on this is going to be a real struggle for all of us.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go through to my guys here. Here are my 25. I did them in kind of batches of 4 around a couple of themes. So, this is actually one of the better years for just elite power. There's 4 elite power hitters, which I put as the equivalent to a 10 on base with 16 to 20 home run. So the original McGwire. There are plenty of sets that are made that have 0 of those people.
Most.
Yes. So it's like, so normally when I'm like supplementing a set, I'm like, McGwire, okay, done. But, okay, so we have Sammy Sosa, who this is the card I have the biggest gripe with in the set. I would have made him a 13 to 20 homer.
Yep.
So that's besides the point. I would 14 to 20 be super desirable, especially sub 500 points. Yeah. Ripken, give some power at third base. We said that was weak. Bonds, right? So there's if you don't want to go with the 01, the monster Bonds. This one gives you the speed A.
Yep.
And this gives you that hybrid guy that can be in a speed lineup. You could be I don't know that I would love him in a speed lineup because he's just going to walk in front of people who steal. But
he might be your steal guy. He might be the modern day, how they have Schwarber hit leadoff. I mean, this Bonds would be a heck of a leadoff guy if you're okay with him running.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're going to be stealing, right? Like, so, but he gives options. There's nobody like this. All the fast guys, like Schwarber's not this, right? No. Like, so this is an interesting guy. And then Galarraga, there's actually, for all the power, there's actually not a ton of it at first base.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because, so for those of you who've made Showdown sets and before, you basically assume that like 7 of your 25 10s or whatever are going to be first basemen. And like you always need to find ways to make them like interesting and different from each other. This Galarraga is just different than anyone who's out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, they feel a lot like John Olerud in the pennant run set, like 17-18 double, 19-20 home run type of guy, on base 10. That's, Devers, Guerrero, Freeman, O'Hearn, Diaz. Like, it's a lot of the same vibe. Even
I think, is Nick Kurtz this card, and then it's nobody?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's the only on base 9, 16-20.
Yep, so you get another one there, make it interesting. All right.
And I love Ripken for being speed C with all that extra base hit pop and the single at 5. I just think that's a very interesting archetype. And one of those things for 350 points, kind of an interesting, he's got his weaknesses, got his strengths. Very fun card, very good looking card too.
Yep. And again, classic kind of, this is a, these three of these guys are all timers, and Galarraga's a feel good story.
Yeah, play your holographics.
Yep. FP Santangelo, Showdown
classic.
Legend. And
Hall-of-Famer.
Yeah. And then I would also look into the 01 Luis Castillo as well. We were trying to limit ourselves on how many 10s there were.
Yeah.
So these are all guys that you could lead off the game, have as leadoff hitters.
Yeah. So,
yeah, the Luis Castillo is great. I love that. The cheap Ricky Henderson, I think that's Dave Magadan, but with speed.
Yep. And that's, the 01 discount too, because the hitters are cheaper in the 01 version. I think that's, very apparent with Ricky. because he's the better version. He's such a good cheap card. He's picked in the first 3 rounds every single time.
Oh, because you get a leadoff hitter. You still have a corner outfield spot, so you're not like eliminating somebody off the board. Sometimes it's like, if I take this, do I really want to have another high end shortstop at DH or something, right? Like that Henderson's great. The Santangelo's great. All these guys are good. It would be tough and we'll go over this later. It would be tough for me to do Kendall and Pudge in the same set.
See, to me, when I saw it, because Kendall was my first thought for a guy to add to the set. Yeah. And I saw you had him. I'm like, all right, well then Pudge is the other one. I think Kendall is so good. He's another guy. Got to make him your leadoff guy. Speed A at catcher, +9 to shut down all the running. I think he and Pudge work well together because they both do the opposite things well. They're the perfect yin and yang.
Yeah, I guess if one of them was a 9, if it was an 8 and a 9, I think when you have 2 different, those do feel pretty good.
One's a leadoff, one's center of the order.
Yeah, and I think the fastest catcher is like Realmuto at a 7, maybe.
Yeah, there's not a lot of.
Yeah, and that was one where it was like, again, limitations of the bot. I had to go find like a custom range.
Yeah,
stole like 2 bases over like a 3-week period or something to get him to his speed A.
Yeah, Realmuto's the only 20 that I see, at least in the draft pool. The next highest is 16 for Shea over in the Athletics.
Yeah,
now
so
Sacramento.
Yeah, the Sacramento, soon to be Las Vegas. So right across from the Excalibur, rip the Flamingo, not the Flamingo, the Tropicana.
Yeah, but there's only 2 guys above 15 speed at catcher in this set. So adding 2 more guys with speed A, I think, makes them extremely desirable.
Yeah, I could be talking to it. Okay, also like need innings eaters, right? Like there's just Logan Webb is like the only guy who legitimately, like Sanchez and Crochet are the other 7 innings, but Webb is the only like just roll him out. I did him in a 6-man league, and he basically threw every inning of every game he was in. Like, and that was his job, was reset the bullpen. Yep. So Kurt Schilling is just like the upgrade of that.
Yeah.
Johnson is the upgrade of Crochet.
Yep.
Kevin Brown, like this guy's always just outpitched his weight, right? Like decent strikeout, big ground ball.
He got that giant contract for a reason.
Yep, absolutely. So the pride of he's not Milledgeville. There's Monticello, Georgia, I believe. So
well, I will say, one of my favorite things about the bot is going through and making like the guys who made a bunch of different stops and getting their cards from each team. Kevin Brown is, kind of first ballot, got to make all his cards because you get the awesome cards from the Rangers, his 1 year with the Orioles. Within version 2 or 3, you have a control 6, 1 to 15 out guy who's really good. Obviously, the Marlins, he's got a great card. His 1 year with the Padres is incredible. The Dodgers are obviously really good. And he has a couple fun control 4, 1 to 16 out cards with the Yankees. So he's a guy you can add a lot of fun holographics with, just bouncing through the years. Same, honestly, with obviously like Randy Johnson, Schilling as well. But Kevin Brown has 5 or 6 teams where you can honestly make holographic cards for. Very fun.
So I made the 04 Yankees and Red Sox, and Schilling is a holo. Brown is not. So Brown, kind of underwhelming. He's starting to show his age at that point.
Yeah,
I love doing big series. As a Red Sox fan, the 04 season has a special place in my heart. So I did the NLCS is wild, right? That Cardinals team is monstrous.
One of the best lineups.
Yeah, just as far as like 3 just monsters. I don't know how Scott Rolen couldn't hit in the World Series, but I'll take it.
Plus Larry Wagner.
Very similar to Sidney Ponson, but also has like a reputation for being an innings eater in his day.
Yeah. Stud.
Not that that's like an archetype that's just not even like in baseball anymore.
No, it's gone. It's all about the high velo as much as you can. Fill up your bullpen with guys who also throw really, really hard. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing that I thought was needed was the on base was super generous across the set. Is like, let's get some tempting hitters who aren't great fielders.
Yeah.
Scott Hatterberg, right? So another Moneyball guy, Isringhausen was mentioned in Moneyball. He was here earlier. So for all your Chris Pratt fans, in your league, they will not. I mean, anyone who plays Scott Hatterberg has stones. That's all I'm saying.
He's going to be a DH.
Yeah,
If there's one thing people are afraid, although I saw Will Smith got drafted, he's a +3 arm. I can't imagine they're going to play him at catcher. He's probably going to DH.
The last guy who drafted him in our 6-man played him at catcher, and there were 2 speed teams that weren't him. So 2 out of every 5 games, every 5 series, he was going against people who were licking their chops. Also, that's a big 3 difference between 0 and 3.
I mean, anybody who's speed A automatically steals.
Yep.
So I appreciate a lot of kahunas for that, but honestly, as a DH, he's very tempting. Just for a cheap on base 9, walk at 5. You put him as your 7th or 8th hitter, you pay him like a 7th or 8th hitter, probably get 250, 260 points worth of production out of him.
Where I don't hate him is actually and we're not doing it in this league, is a 24-player, 6,000-point league with tiredness.
That would be great.
Because it's like, if your catcher gets hit, it's like, well, he's not going to play there forever.
Yeah, the plug, something I hope we're able to do again, because we're working on reconstructing a sim. We called it the 30 for 30 league. We had 30 different managers, and each drafting teams based on bot created. So we had, over the last 30 years, anybody who, had a certain amount of plate appearances or IP pitched in a season was eligible. But, for instance, if the Red Sox drafted Hatterberg, the A's couldn't, so you're fighting for your guys. And we had a good sim that unfortunately broke.
So you're a manager. I get all the Red Sox from the past 30 years.
Yep, you can draft from them, but
so I can get the Beltre, but I only get the 1 year he's with the Red Sox, and he becomes ineligible across the league.
Exactly. So if the Rangers draft Beltre first, you can't take him,
and I can't take the 50 home run Dodgers one.
No. Just your Red Sox version.
Oh, wild! I like it.
So we're hoping to be able to do it again once we get a bot working that can sim it like we had before and keep all the stats and things like that. But what we did, it was 25-man rosters, and we had tiredness rules. So we had 6 different lineups that you put together, and so guys could only be in 5 of the 6 lineups. The sim selected which lineup was, and it was generally your main lineup would be picked about 40% of the time, your second lineup 20%, and then each of the other 4 10%. So your catcher could only play catcher in 4 out of the 6 lineups.
Yep.
So every catcher was resting approximately 20% of the games, and it was a full 162 game sim. So your backup catcher would play a significant amount of time. That's where it'd be very fun to see Scott Hatterberg put in and have to catch 35 games out of the season and see how that impacted things.
Yeah, the one I like was where you just roll through the lineup and any 20 makes them tired for the next game. And then sometimes we would re-roll, and it's like if you hit back-to-back 20s, they were 3 days on the injured list or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always fun when you have the specific where you're rolling it and players are getting hurt and you're knocking them out and stuff like that live, especially with your buddies. Can't be touched.
Yeah, if you're playing a ton of games, just line up and shoot, right? Don't worry about. But if you're playing a bunch, or it's I need to spice it up. I think part of what this conversation should spark is find ways to be creative and put limitations, but also give your players escape patches.
Yeah, well, and it's fun, on a bachelor party weekend or whatever. When you're playing a bunch of these games, it's fun to use more cards. In blind draft, and make sure that all the stuff you've spent the money on over the years you use.
Absolutely. You get the memories, be I love that guy. Hanley Frias, I don't know who has any memories of this guy. This team won the World Series. I don't remember.
No, I just remembered him from this card because it's a very fun, it's very usable. And I love him and Noblock here for the middle infield, +2 versus the +10 from before. But I think in this set, both of them are so usable because there's so much defense outside of them.
Yeah,
right?
That's where it's the tempting part here. Is Is like I wanted to put people down here where it was like, hey, these aren't perfect players. These are people that like you're accepting a flaw, but you're getting paid off for it. So, and Ramirez, this was early in his career, right? He would go on to be a much more contributing player than who he is in this card. But it's like these are all fun guys, right? Like
for 240 points, I would have no problem with him being my 6th hitter, even though I'm probably paying him like a 7th hitter.
Absolutely, you're stomaching that 0, especially if you get like Bobby Witt at 6.
Yep.
It's like, oh, if I get 6 between the two of them, plus right. they give out first base +1 like candy in this set.
Yeah. So I easily can get +10 in your other 3 positions.
So when I was making sets by hand, there were 5 guys who we basically said like who are the best 5 like reputational fielders. The advanced metrics weren't what they are now.
Yeah.
Fielding. And then like there were legacy guys who would get a +1 if they were like long in the tooth but had a reputation for being a decent fielder. Like Todd Helton was getting older, but he had a reputation for being a good fielder. So it's like the set would end up with like 7 or 8 +1s, and there's probably 20 in this set.
Yeah.
So all right. So these aren't the innings either. These are my cheap 2000 style starters. One, CC Sabathia, we mentioned. This would be the number 1 pick. If you're not worried about points.
The GOAT.
I mean, if you're not, like, assuming you're not playing with, like, Juan Guzman at 40 points and Jeffrey Hammond's at 400 or the Andrew Jones who's a 10 when he should be an 8. Like, if you're
He's not a misprint. They meant to make him 10 points.
Yeah, they... Also, long way for our Hall of Fame friend here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is where they projected it out.
Yep.
So the 0-1 pennant run has a lot of projections, and so there's him, there's Ichiro, Pujols, Corey Patterson, who is, pretty much this is the only time those 4 names are in sequential order.
Yeah. There's some interesting selections. I mean, they did nail a few of the guys who would become future stars, but they did not give them the Carl Everett treatment. Maybe they learned their lesson.
So Jeff Brantley here at 10 points, who I only remember from Baseball Tonight.
Yep.
So I think he walked right from this photo shoot into the Baseball Tonight studio.
Zimmerman is a great one because, and like just to put in perspective, there's another guy in here, because he's no doubles. He's 10 points, and the guy, I mean, we've got similar guys, with a double, 30 points.
Yep. So this is a no strategy card league. And again, like the points are really tight. So like there are times where he's going to face like an 8-9 and a 1-hitter that you're not scared of.
Right. And especially, like you're saying, there's not a lot of innings in the starting pitchers. So, my plan is to have 7 relievers on my roster. And it's specifically because of these extreme tiredness rules, so that if my starter comes out, after 5 2/3, I can have Zimmerman come in, not waste the other guys. He can face the 8th hitter or whatever. Maybe he goes back out and faces the 9th hitter for the top of the next inning and then comes out. That's fine. It's get outs as much as you can, have cheap guys to do the cheap labor, and try to scrounge out some wins.
So for those of you who've never played this style, if you have a 5-pitcher reliever, it is really tough to bail your starter out in the middle of an inning where they get in trouble. Like, you're stretching him and he gets in trouble. Like, once he's gotten that first out, he's almost priced into the whole inning.
Yeah.
So when you go up to a 6 guy, even if that 6 guy sucks, like, and Jeff Zimmerman doesn't suck, you just have more options, and you can bring in someone like this to mop it up. And you can go in with like, well, if he gives up the runs, I kind of already thought I was giving him up anyway. And if he gets me out of it, that might win me the game.
Another fun wrinkle, depending on your rules and who's playing, what if you run out of relievers, which has happened to us a lot of times over the years with, limited bullpens, because we're not going to pitch guys into the negative whatevers. We try to keep it realistic, and we put a cap on it at a certain point. I loved having just swing offs at the end. I don't know if you've ever gotten here.
I've never gotten a swing off. We've done like everybody has like Colby 0, and you get like a 0, 1 to like 20 double, 19 single guy.
We had the I think the most fun ending I've ever had was my friend Michael and I We got to the end of the game. We both ran out of pitchers. It was 2-2 after like 15 innings. And we decided it was like, all right, we're just having, quote unquote, a player pitch. And so we were just rolling off our own charts until we had 3 outs. And so he scored 8 runs. And then I got up and I had a walk-off bomb with Barry Bonds to end the game. So like the 2-2 through 16 ended up being 11-10 is the final score. That was a blast. So maybe don't have so many relievers.
Yeah. Also, Jose Lima, who's not much better than pitching a position player, 7 ERA. If you want to know what a 7 ERA looks like on a MLB Showdown card, this is it. But also, if you want a sign of the times, his manager rolled him out there for 6 innings a game.
That's wild.
Cavalry isn't coming, right? You'll get 18 outs eventually.
I would love for him to be in here just attempt. You know what? Somebody just have to take him because they can't afford anybody else.
It's Lima time, right? Like,
yeah.
Also, if he ever goes like 3 shutout and you score like 2 or 3 runs, like you feel like $1 million.
Take him out.
Yeah. The thing about Lima time is when it's over, it's over.
Oh boy, that's a fun one.
Yeah, so it's those are some wild ones. All right, couple legends here. We do have the bot, right? Like, so one, most of you have shoe boxes full of Showdown cards. Go, like, play with those. If you use the bot, here are a couple guys that I was like, just to, give some examples of what I would have. Like, okay, so for my sub 10 power, like 61 Maris, right? Like,
yep. That's gonna be
probably overshadows the set a little bit.
But he'd be a blast.
It would be a blast, right? So, Jackie Robinson, like, does a lot of what this set needs, and like is also just like an awesome card to have.
And very fun that he's at first base.
And he's fast, right?
Yeah.
Also, like, weirdly, like, it'd be one, like, Jackie Robinson would be worth, like, discussion, even if he was, like, a mediocre player. Like, oddly, really good with advanced metrics.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun because, like, I'd always, like most people, I think of Jackie Robinson as a second baseman. So this was, like, one of those fun things where it's like, oh, wow, first base. This is cool.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, so absolutely, like, fun, like, super usable. Like, this was actually just, like, there are guys that, like, I tinker with to make, like, a game piece that does something interesting. That's not what this is. This is who Jackie Robinson was.
It'd be an incredible leadoff guy.
Yep.
Unsurprisingly.
Remember when you're making old sets, if you do care about, like, the number of 10s in a set, like, when you do old sets, remember to look up how many teams are in the league.
Yeah.
Because if you have, like, 25 10s and above in, like, I think there were, like, 16 teams here, that's a lot different than the 30-team league. So, something to consider. Obviously, Nolan Ryan, like, they're just, like, cult hero. So, innings eater, like, if there was ever a guy who was an innings eater who there is a color picture of, it's Nolan Ryan or Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson would just overshadow the entire set. You can't have Maris and Gibson because then it would just be like not the 2025 set.
Well, it's so interesting just seeing like a Nolan Ryan card with his strikeout range only 4 to 8.
Yeah, because you think of him as being, I mean, he got a lot of strikeouts because he pitched to 1 million guys, right? Like he did have a good strikeout, right? Like,
it's just one of those fun things where it's between the reputation we all hear and how we think of a guy versus like what the reality of the season might be. Also, just a card that would get drafted very, very early on with the set, which I always think makes it a good addition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. People are excited. And then there are a bunch of Derek Jeters for like a guy with like who's a tempting hitter who doesn't have great fielding.
Yeah, absolutely. And also not a lot of speed usually. He tends to be a speed B guy, not a lot of defense usually. So kind of a better version of Frias that we're looking at earlier.
Yeah, so when we were making them by hand, that was one where it was like, he was interesting. So the guys we would juxtapose would be like Jeter, who like straight line speed, probably not very fast. Like if you did the sprint speed tracking, which we didn't have access to that then, like probably middle of the pack. But like base running, heady, always paying attention, taking the extra base, like probably getting an A, right? So he was like the classic like A 1918, like, sub 20 speed A guy. All right. My last guy that I would add for the set is could technically be in this set, and that is the double-sided Ohtani.
I'm gonna hand up. This is what I thought I was gonna be drafting when I took him in the first round, because like I'd made my own cards as well, and I did this exact same thing. So I have printed off the DH starting pitcher, and I have them side to side, or I guess back to back in the sleeve. And so I have if you draft Ohtani in all the rule games we've done. So like for that 30 for 30, the Angels selected him. It ended up counting as like 2 picks in one. So like their last pick is Shohei as a pitcher, first pick Shohei as a DH. You could do it however you want, but it was like they got both of them with the one pick.
See, I like that you get the extra spot back. I discounted the points a little bit. So to make this card, by the way, take some photoshopping, right? Like, this is not something that the bot will do, but it's like
worth it.
I give him a little bit of discount because it's like, well, you're handcuffed to both of these things. I think the hitter got drafted high. People want the hitter.
Yeah.
But the pitcher is a flawed player, but not a bad player.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the way I think about it, he's a tier 2 pitcher, right? He's 21 control plus outs. The problem is with IP4 and a very low control, he can't really go past it. You're almost stuck with 4 innings, maybe pushing into a 5th if it's the bottom of the order he's facing. But he's so good that he could do it.
Well, you get the extra roster spot.
Yeah.
So it's like you're realistically you're gonna need 6 starter, and then it's like, do I go with Oviedo as well, who's a 4-inning pitch guy, and do I just load up and do the 7 relievers?
Yeah,
but I've also spent 920 points. So how am I spending all this?
The rest of my roster. I mean, I think if you get Logan Webb in the second round, or maybe lean into control 3s, get Crochet, but an IP7 guy to reset the bullpen right behind him, I think that really helps strategically. But then you really have to be judicious with your points from there on out. But I mean, you just make sure you draft a 10 or 30 point reliever to kind of fill that extra roster spot, because realistically the hitter alone is 590, so 330-ish points for a control 3 1 through 18 out guy is fantastic value.
Yeah, I think this pitcher is 390, so you're getting a bit of a discount on the pitcher, but this is what you have, right? Like you don't get like your pick. You don't get to pick 2 separate players. You would pick these guys together.
Yeah, and so if instead of spending 390 on this guy separately and getting him here for 330 points, that's 60 points of value. And as long as you add another arm for under 60 points, there's some good, a control 1 through 18 out guy you could add.
Yep.
Works out really well.
So awesome. Okay, so we were in a 10-person league. We're going to imagine that Wizards of the Coast said, hey, we're going to print your set, right? Live the dream here, right? And they're also going to say, hey, we can do 12 supplemental cards. We can't do your full 50. We do 12. Let's draft them real quick. I'll let you get the first pick.
All right. I'm going to go with that Jason Kendall.
Okay, Jason Kendall. I'm going to just take Ohtani off the board. I think he needs to be in the 12.
Yeah, it's a great one. I will throw A-Rod in there. I think he adds a lot to shortstop. Love what he brings. I'll take A-Rod.
Okay, so that's your third. I am going to. You sold me on the double speed A catchers. I'll go Pudge for 4.
Nice. I'm sold on the inning eater needs, and particularly Kurt Schilling. What he brings with that control 6, 1 to 15 out, IP8, just first round pick for sure.
So absolutely. Okay, we will. I am gonna go with the. I'm gonna go Scott Hatterberg. I'm gonna start the Moneyball train.
Love that. For 7th, I'm gonna go back to the inning eater route. I'm gonna put Mike Hampton in there. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna sucker somebody into picking Mike Hampton.
Yep. All right. I will take your. I'm gonna take the bait here, and I'm gonna go with Kip Wells for 7. I think there needs to be a cheap reliever.
I love that. And then I'll keep on the trend of the cheapness. I'm going with your CC Sabathia.
Okay, so
I love 10 points.
Yep, I'm gonna match him with the Jeff Brantley for 9. Am I not? Is that
That's 10. That's 10. So
one?
my
Yep,
last pick, I think we know where I'm going here. Fan favorite, Jeff Jenkins.
Jeff Jenkins. All right. See, that's it. There's always room for your favorites, and
Got to.
I am gonna. Oh, there's someone. Who do I leave off? I will go with Jackie Robinson as my last one to give the speed players a bit of a boost because I have 2 speed A catchers and a speed A first baseman, so the most popular archetype. So awesome. So Peter, this is a treat, my man.
This was a lot of fun. I know we were pretty long here, but it was a blast. I hope everybody enjoyed us just talking shop.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have you on. Maybe we'll do like a This Week in Showdown with the crew.
That'd be a blast.
All right, later.
All right, see you.